Hugh Hefner, a true American icon, created an empire that was unrivaled.
Although some of us bunnies may have gone rogue, it's because of the love and respect that we received from the man behind it all.
Because after all, we did learn from the best.
Relive the stories from the most prominent celebrity home in history.
What happens in the grotto stays in the grotto.
From those of us that lived it,
The employees that worked it,
And the guests who loved it.
And
the mayhem continues.
All right, here we are once again, Rogue Bunnies Mayhem. I know, Victoria, Jen, we've been excited talking about this. Like, who do we want to get on? We're bringing in Dutch. Dutch, how do you say your last name?
Bihary, Dutch Bihary.
Dutch Bihary. I got to put a in there, right?
Yeah.
Dutch Bihary. It's kind of
Only if you're in Romania.
Well, no, it's just I was just laughing because I got to go. I want to do this right, not mean any offense, but I just started thinking about that Hawk 2 girl.
Hawk 2.
She blew up. Come on, she literally blew up. I mean, you guys heard about this Hawk 2 girl, right?
Oh
Who
yeah.
hasn't? You can't flip through anything on social media without it being a meme or something. It's hilarious.
What do you think it's like for her? I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, I heard she's been making
She's
some
a
money
role
on
model
this now.
for young girls all around the world.
Listen,
Well, you know how it is when you get caught off guard just saying something candid and you're trying to be goofy and you know, she didn't expect that it was going to blow up like it did. Just somebody stops you on the sidewalk and says, "Hey, by the way, here's the microphone." Ask you some random question. How do you please your man? And she was just being goofy because she was out on a girls' night with her friends. But then her pastor dad found out about it, and he's not too happy. So
wait, what? Her pastor dad?
Yeah.
Oh,
well, that's what I read. This is all on the internet. So
Who knows? The truth.
Well, enough of the Hawk 2.
Yeah.
Dutch, welcome, man. We're excited to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me.
So I have a couple questions for you, Dutch. You were on. I did before I met you. Before you came on the team, I had seen you on Skin Wars, which was one of those shows where they do body painting. It was hosted by RuPaul. You made it actually really far. I think you got like third place. I don't remember, third place or something, but your stuff was incredible. Tell us about that show. What was it like? Because by the way, he's super artistic. He's amazing. The stuff that he creates, it's not just paint and it's not just sculptures. It's like he's a creative force for sure. But tell us what it was like, how you got on that show and what it was like.
Well, they found me. I was actually in the running to be in another show, and I was set up to get some B-reel footage for that show at a body painting convention that was happening in Florida. And they had said, "Hey, when you get off the plane, they're going to have cameras following you around, and just act normal, just do what you normally do." And they were gonna film us at this event, just kind of in our environment, doing what we were going to do. And when I got off the plane, there was no film crew, and I'm kind of looking around. I got to the event, and still no film crew. And then I realized I had other, contemporaries and peers with film crews following them. So I tapped a guy on the shoulder, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, well, we don't know. We're just following instructions." They were just film guys; they didn't know anything. And so I was at this event for 3 or 4 days, and on the last day, I was a little miffed. I'll just tell you the whole story. I was a little upset because nobody called me and told me that I wasn't going to be filmed, and so I kind of had my hopes built up a little bit. So I was feeling a certain kind of way about that. And so when I get angry, I'm not an angry person by nature. I work. I like clean the house. I like clean the garage. I kind of go nuts and I stay active to kind of keep my mind. I use that energy for good, I guess. And so I was killing it at this event. I was painting nobody's business. And because the other guys
You're really mad.
Yeah, these other guys that were getting followed around by the cameras, they weren't painting good at all because they were nervous. They had people, following them around in little herds. And so they were off their game. And so the crew kept saying, "Who's painting these? Who painted that one? Who painted that one? Oh, that's Dutch. Oh, that's Dutch. Oh, that's Dutch." And so that happened all weekend long. And then finally on the last day, the producer came up to me and he's like, "Dutch, hey, buddy, pal, sorry." Yeah. And I was just like, "Yeah, screw you, man." So I told them I didn't want to be involved in that show. And they're like, no. They were blowing all this sunshine up my butt trying to tell me, "Oh, it's going to be the Dutch show. Clearly we made a mistake and we're going to make this right." And I was like, yeah, no, I don't trust you guys. And so I went, and at that very same show, the producer for Skin Wars was kind of skulking around looking for contestants for her new show. And she kind of saw that whole interaction. And there's a lot more to the story, but there's way too much to tell in an interview like this. But I told her, hey, I'm in, sign me up. And I was actually a consultant for the show prior to it being a show.
Oh.
They were kind of hitting me up for all kinds of information about where do you purchase this and where do you get that and how do you get your hands on this type of product and what's the best airbrush, what's the best compressor. I was drawing up classes and tutorials and stuff for them. I was really working with them for a lot of months, and so it was a little bit of a surprise when they actually asked me to be a contestant. I thought, well, that's not really going to be fair, is it? Like, oh, no, it'll be great. It'll be great. It's a reality TV show, so you've got to take all of that with a grain of salt. My character on the show, my job was to be the guy everybody had to figure out how to beat. So I was kind of like the anti-ringer. I had the most experience and was turning out really good work, but it wasn't my show to win, so to speak. Let's just leave it at that.
They couldn't have you win, probably, right? They couldn't have you win.
Exactly.
I would assume. Yeah. I mean,
so I was there for the last episode, and I had to walk off the stage in disgrace and do all that. And it wasn't a whole lot of fun toward the end there. I really went into the thing thinking it was going to be like a legitimate competition. I was going to win some money. But that's just not how those shows work. Right. So, but it was an experience, and I got to be. It's funny how those shows work. Like your Chef Ramsay's and your Simon Cowell's and stuff like that. People like the bad guy, and they spun me as the bad guy through clever editing.
You were the villain,
stuff like that. Yeah, so I was the villain of the show, and people dug it. I didn't. Because for about 3 years after that, I got hate mail on social media. And we were contractually gagged, so we couldn't, I couldn't defend myself. I couldn't say, hey, grow up. It's reality TV. This stuff's not real.
It's so funny because I remember watching it and I remember I kept thinking, well, you can't win every time. Your stuff was so much far superior than most of the contestants. And I kept thinking, why is he not winning this one? I don't understand. Did you feel that too? You were like, okay. Because
it became, it was very formulaic. The way that the show format was, we had a mini challenge and then we had an elimination challenge. So there was 2 challenges on each episode. And the preliminary challenge, you won some sort of a Benny or some sort of like you got extra 20 minutes to paint on the next challenge. So you got something for it if you won the mini challenge. And if you watch the season again, I think it's on Hulu right now. It was on Netflix for like 6 or 7 years. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But now it's on Hulu. But if you watch it, every mini challenge, whoever won that day, their desk was next to mine. They had rearranged the room. I was at the same desk the entire time, same workstation for every single challenge. And so whoever won the mini challenges, they were next to me on that day. And so we kind of knew who was going to win.
That was kind of the whole setup.
Oh.
A little too convenient, yeah. But I mean, as the cameras fly around with all those fast cuts and stuff like that, it's hard to get a sense of where people are on the floor. But they really wanted me in the frame kind of as the subconscious opposition to the person, who they were kind of focusing on for that episode to get that win.
How much time did they give you? Because some of these shows, it looks like that you're really under the gun. You have 2 hours or whatever. How much time did you really have for some of the challenges?
Well, that part was legitimate. So when they said, hey, you've got 2 hours for this, or you've got 4 hours for this, that was legit, which was problematic because, I mean, we're dealing with human bodies. We're dealing with equipment and gear and paints and things that require setting time and stuff like that. And so there's just only so much you can do. To put it into perspective for you, if you were going to go to Daegu over in Korea or the World Body Paint Festival over in Austria, the big body paint events, an average body paint takes 6 hours if you're going to do a good job. And so, that's you're painting this 110-pound petite, tiny little model because you don't want all of that acreage to cover, so to speak. One of the challenges, they wanted us to paint sumo wrestlers, like 400-pound sumo wrestlers.
Oh my gosh!
In like 3 hours, yeah, and it had to be full coverage. And so, I mean, some of the requests were a little asinine. So there were some concessions. At times, they would give you an extra 10 minutes. They'd say, hey, everyone can do touch-ups. You can't change your art in any way. You can't erase or add anything more. But if you want to crisp up some lines and and take away some splots or whatever, then that's fine. But most of that was pretty spot on. So we were under the gun. We were racing around that place.
Was there anybody that obviously I would not have been good under the gun? Like that would have not have worked for me. I would have not finished and I would have been in tears in a panic about not finishing. Was there a lot of that? I mean, that creates a lot of the drama. Was there people that just couldn't handle it?
That's a really good question, Victoria. We're going to have to take a quick break. Dutch, we're going to be right back. We're going to delve deeper. You are listening to Rogue Bunnies Mayhem.
The Rogue Bunnies have had some pretty epic in real life events that I'm sure you've all heard about. Wondering how you can be included in our next one? Become a VIP NFT holder. The main benefit of being a VIP is access to our events, and lucky for you, there are multiple ways to become one. Purchase a stunning Rogue Bunnies Founder Drop Ordinal, minting now at ordinals.roguebunnies.com. Or own a legendary or epic trading card. Buy one right off of our marketplace or try your luck with a Series 1 trading card pack. Once you own one of these, get verified in our Discord and claim your status. The VIP perks don't end at in-real-life events. You'll also have priority access to future drops, gated chat channels with the Rogue Bunnies, VIP-only online events, and more. Want more details? Visit roguebunnies.com. Then follow the bunny mask and get ready to go rogue.
Welcome to the metaverse.
Hi, I'm Raquel Pomplin, Playmate of the Year 2013, and you're listening to Rogue Bunnies Mayhem.
Yeah, so Dutch, I was curious about contestants that didn't quite cut it. Like for me, I wouldn't have been able to be on a show like that to do art because I would have been too self-conscious. The pressure would have been too much for me to feel creative. How many people cracked under that pressure? I mean, was there people that just couldn't finish and panicked and cried and that must have been great drama?
To be honest, I would say there were roughly half of them were not suited for that type of painting, for sure. Another interesting factoid was some of these contestants that they found for the show were strictly on there because they were colorful characters, not necessarily because of their artistic chops.
Yeah,
they were just flamboyant, colorful. They were good on camera. They had a great personality. But where body painting is concerned, what I teach international, I don't know if you guys know that, but I made my living for 15 years or actually more, traveling around the world teaching at special effects colleges, beauty schools, conventions and trade shows and things like that. Because there's a lot of, you got cosplay, you got Halloween, you've got just the straight body painting as a competitive thing, which a lot of people don't realize is all over the world. Every state in the United States has a body painting convention at some point in the year. It's a really vibrant subculture with a lot of people involved. And so I kind of made my living teaching master classes. I actually got to teach for Stan Winston Studios. I don't know if you're familiar with Stan Winston, but Stan Winston is the gold standard of special effects in Hollywood. So Jurassic Park, Aliens, Predator, Terminator, all those great special effects movies. They're the top dogs, and I was super honored. It's like my favorite feather in my cap in my artistic career to be, of all the airbrush artists on the planet, to be chosen to teach master classes for Stan Winston Studios. I'm off track now, but
no, you're not at all.
Well, I got a question though, Dutch, that I've always been curious, and I'm surprised I've never asked this. Because we used to have. Back at the mansion, we'd have the big parties and we do a lot of the body painting, and I'd have to go and deliver messages down to where all the ladies were at, and we had to make sure that we, keeping the air conditioning going and everything, so people aren't sweating. Now I'm picturing you're on a camera set, you're on a set, you've got heavy lights on you, got cameras on you. Is there something you put on a person to help stop the sweat, or is it a constant paint dry?
There's two answers to that question. Yes, there is something that you can put on the skin, and it's just aluminum sulfate, which is what you have in antiperspirant. You just get a pure aluminum sulfate and you dab it on with a cotton ball. The problem with that is the skin is an organ, and it needs to breathe. And so you can't suffocate the entire body. So you ask questions of the model. Do you have oily skin? Do you sweat a lot? If you do, where are the areas where you sweat the most? So we try to treat those areas the best we can.
Oh, that makes sense.
Heat is an issue. And I'll tell you, models go down. We had 2 models go down on our show while we were shooting. I had one that went down, but because...
When you mean went down, like they just fainted? They passed out?
Fainted, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Because you're just standing there for hours. I mean,
And what people don't understand is I've got prior to me reemerging and getting back into my art career, I was a personal trainer. I was an elite trainer. I actually trained Olympic athletes, and I trained some bodybuilders and some ball players and stuff. When you learn all that stuff about anatomy and physiology and biomechanics and kinesiology, you learn about how the body deals with waste. And so when you're exercising, everyone knows you produce lactic acid when you exercise. But see, people don't think of standing still as exercising. But when you're trying to hold still, you're basically flexing every muscle in your body just a little bit. Well, all of those muscles producing waste in an abundance over a period of time, it catches up to you. The body can't deal with it all. And so a lot of people say, well, don't lock your knees out and things like that. And those are good tips for a model that has to stand still and not move around. Locking the knees out isn't really what causes it, but it's kind of like, I guess, something you say so that, you basically just want to coach your model to be loose. Hey, when I'm not actually painting on you, shake it out, bend your knees, move around, do some toe touches, something. But when I'm painting you, be as still as you can. And so, it's just about prepping your model and having those conversations. The other thing too is the products that we use now are alcohol based. They will stand up to a lot of sweat. They'll hold up under some pretty extreme circumstances. So they didn't have that on the TV show though.
I was going to say when we were playmates, when we were shooting our centerfold, we would have to hold a pose for a week. So yeah, we get it.
And it hurt. And I was, oh my God. And I was sweating. They were like, oh my God, are you okay? Because I had to keep redoing my makeup because it was just, my hair was wet. It was terrible. You you exercise a lot, but could you hold a wall squat for 8 hours? Probably not. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I was doing. It was horrible. So
yeah, body painting is a lot more arduous than I think people give it credit for. The models are our primary focus. I mean, we have to understand that if we want this to turn out, the models have to be taken care of. We got to give them rest. You got to keep them hydrated. If it's in a cold environment, you got to keep them warm. If it's in a hot environment, you got to keep them cool. A good, comfortable model is going to increase the likelihood that you're going to come out with a good end product tremendously. And so you gotta. It's funny because when you're doing body art, I've painted hundreds of models over the years, and they're always nervous. Unless they've been painted 100 times before. The first time someone gets a body art, they're super nervous, and so they're sweating just out of pure stress. They're sweating before you even touch them, and you're going through the pasty process and telling them about let's have a good communication, let's have a protocol. There are going to be some sensitive areas that I'm going to have to get into. Let's talk about how that's going to work. And once they are covered, though, once they have the painting 3/4 of the way done, and they're seeing what they look like, they change. They completely change. And a lot of women will attest to this. If you talk to anyone who's been body painted, they don't feel like they're naked anymore.
Yeah, you feel like you have clothes on, for sure.
Yeah.
totally.
And not only that, but you're getting a massive amount of attention, but it's not because you're naked. It's because you're being appreciated, as this canvas, this art piece. It's a different sensation. And so for a day, they kind of get to be, king for a day or queen for a day and walk around and strut their stuff. I remember a short story. I painted a gal in Vegas once. When I finished painting her, we took some photos of her and then I said, hey, you're free. Go do whatever you want. You can go take a shower right now if you want. We're finished. And she's like, oh, heck no. And so she went out on the drag and she was collecting $20 for photos. She just was walking.
That's amazing.
And so I think she made like $100 or something just stopping for candid photos. So
we've talked to multiple body painters, and I'm told like it's a special kind of paint. Like I just want our listeners to understand, you just can't go pick up any kind of paint to put on your skin because, like you said, it's a living, breathing organ. I mean, the body. You could get. Someone could be harmed if they aren't knowing what they're doing.
Absolutely, yeah. There's some people that have paid their dues dealing with bad products or inappropriate products for sure. The products now they're very strictly governed, basically governed by the same laws where cosmetics are produced. The best products, as I mentioned earlier, are the alcohol-based products because they just stand up to more wear and tear, and the colors are more vibrant. And but there are water-based products that are still used. It just kind of depends on the application. if you're doing promotional models like Bud Girls or something like that, an event where people are going to be posing with them and putting their arms around their shoulders and stuff like that, you got to have a pretty strong paint. If it's strictly for a photo shoot, you're going to shoot a catalog or a calendar or something like that, you can get away with the water-based paints just fine. But all of them are very, very safe for the skin. If it doesn't say body paint, then don't use it.
So, Dutch, I wanted you to share with everybody how you were found to work with Rogue Bunnies. So from my end, this guy named Jody, who I haven't heard from in forever, he introduced you to me. This was way in the very beginning, and I was looking for another artist to work with me. And he said, well, I know this guy, I met this guy Dutch, or I know this guy Dutch, and he does body painting. And I'm like, ugh, body painting? Like, what does he know about? Like, whatever. So I met you, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you, I gave him a picture, and I said, okay, I gave a picture of what I wanted, which was this strappy thing, bondagey, strappy with bows and whatever. And I was thinking if like he could pull this off, right? And so like it was quick too. Like I would think it was like a day or the next day. You're like, oh here, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that I got so lucky, because there was one other person that was a body painter that came, and I was not so keen on the work. And then when I was introduced to you, I was so impressed and so shocked. What did Jody tell you to get you to want to submit and work with us?
Jody brought me on as an artist for an earlier endeavor years and years ago. He fancied starting a haunted house. There was a section of the haunted house that was all 3D blacklight, where you wear 3D glasses and it's all black, and it's just blacklight paintings on the wall that look like they're coming out at you. And I knew nothing about chroma depth or how to paint it or anything, and so he kind of walked me through what he knew. So I wound up doing a haunted house for him, and that's when we became friends. And he realized that I had a much broader artistic breadth than that. I got my start as an illustrator, illustrating comic books, and so I got my artistic chops and got my speed, developed my speed and my skill and whatnot doing illustrations. And so when Jody reached out, he wasn't really even reaching out to me. He was reaching out to my wife, because she was really getting into Web3, and she's always been kind of a tech girl. She's always wants to be on the cutting edge of what's going on. It was very serendipitous, I think. Everything just kind of fell into place. Me knowing the history of Playboy and the body paints at the mansion, and then just with my ability to illustrate, it just made sense. Remember, we did that leather jacket that you love so much. Because yes. I did those sort of matrixy ones for you, the bondagey matrix kind of looking, rubber suits and leather and stuff like that. And then we did that sort of dirty, rustic looking leather jacket. That's when I think were really on board.
I was like, oh, this is so, because I was so punk rock in high school. And so yeah. I wanted, to have a little bit of a punk edge, which is all you all day long, which I didn't know. But yeah, you created some great styles. So this art that we're talking about, we've used a little bit with Rogue Bunnies, like the girl in the gold that we've used so much. Mm-hmm. But I did 13 portraits of girls, Jen being one of them. And we haven't put out the art yet because so much has happened. The Ukraine war happened, all these things. And it's a huge collection. It's called a generative collection, and it can do up to 12,000, 10,000 randomized with all the different traits and the hairs and he did makeup and all kinds of different things. And so we have not put out this.
Why
Darian and I,
we're saving it for just the right time.
It has to be at the right time.
It has to be at the right time because it can produce a lot of money, but we don't want it to not sell out or not have the opportunity for it to really shine. So we have not put out this art yet. And we're still, we're actually been talking right now with a chain that we want to get in bed with, if you will. And so it's still to come. It's going to be used. It's just a matter of time. But yeah, I can't wait for that one to come out because that is 100% art and 100% Rogue Bunnies. It's not photographs and other things from other people that we've used and changed. It's 100%
all hand drawn.
Yeah, so it
was a lot of fun too. I gotta say, from just doing a simple lollipop in the hand for one trait to little diamond earrings to full outfits with big hats and all that stuff. So you could wind up getting a random draw of. I mean, we didn't do anything particularly goofy. We tried to keep it classy, so we weren't doing like
classy and sexy.
Yeah, we were trying to stay away from like football helmets and sombreros and things like that. But that would be fun.
Clown nose and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dutch, what would you say to the listener that's saying, "Man, I want to do that"? I mean, your life is pretty freaking awesome. I mean, you get to play. I mean, that's what you love to do. You get to use your art, and you get to use your art and make a living from it. So for the artist that's out there going, "Man, how do I get into that? How do I pursue?"
Gosh, so much of it is just being in the right place at the right time and meeting the right people. I mean, I was very fortunate friendship that I made with Jody back in the day. I never would have met Victoria if I hadn't made that friendship. And I learned a new medium. I had a lot of fun with that. I painted 4 different haunted attractions for myself, several of which we've sold and made a profit off of. I've done some work for Six Flags and some of the other larger haunts around the country. And, that was a lot of fun. I still really enjoy that artistic process because it's very fast. It's like mural painting, but faster. I did my family and our family, we did a huge mural last summer, which was a lot of fun. So like I said earlier, have airbrush will travel, but to get into that line of business, look, art is hard. You have to be tenacious. You've got to have a fire, and you've got to have a lot of irons in that fire. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket with art. You've got to do a bunch of things because you never know what's going to be popular, what's going to pick up, what's going to drop off, and what's going to make you good money. And so, I think people think, of professional artists as people that sit in a studio and paint canvases, and there certainly are those that do that. I almost never do that. I would love to do that more, but I don't have any time because I'm too busy doing other things.
Yeah.
So
obviously we've dropped 3 series now of the trading cards. So you've gotten to paint traits or clothing on 60 Playmates. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if you were a Playboy fan before you started working with the Rogue Bunnies, and do you have a favorite Playmate? Was she perhaps one of the 60 that you got to work with, or do you have a favorite set of cards that you created for?
Careful, his wife is off camera right now.
Well, the only Playboy
blink if you're safe
held on to was the one with Cindy Crawford on the cover. That's the only one that I held on to, and it's in my comic book box somewhere. The only reason I held on to it had nothing really to do with Cindy Crawford. I just thought it might be worth something as a collectible. When I was a kid, when I was a young budding gentleman, there was a kind of a frat-like party house on an abandoned property close to where I lived, where all of the older kids, the high school kids and the college-age kids would party. And I remember we were up there. We weren't supposed to be up there, me and my younger friends at the time, and we found a box full of Playboys once, and that was like striking gold for a young boy.
Yeah.
I couldn't speak to having a specific Playmate. Frankly, at that age, I was not paying attention to the names. But no, I mean, the gals that I have gotten to meet in Perfect have been incredible. I gotta say that party in Vegas over at Elvis's penthouse was just freaking incredible.
Yeah, the Mansion 2.0 party, that was sick. That was fun.
Yeah, being able to kind of hobnob and rub elbows with the models and talk to them, kind of face to face without any pretext or any of this videoing or things going on was really nice to get to know them in person, because all I've seen of them up to that point was just their pictures for the most part, and heard their voices on some of the Discords and so forth, and so it was nice to meet some of them. And this thing just keeps getting bigger and cooler, and it just keeps mushrooming out. And I mean, with someone like Victoria at the helm kind of driving this thing, and I was like, why would I not want to be involved with this? I mean, I thought I was just going to be doodling some little pictures, at the beginning, and then I'm just getting more and more and more involved in it, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. And I can't wait for that.
I wanted to do our comic book.
Yeah, the comic book is kind of, I'm kind of chomping at the bit to do something like that, because that's obviously right up my alley.
Tell them what you had a comic book, and what is it called?
When I was 18, I was just out of high school, maybe 6 months out of high school, and basically just turned in a portfolio to a publishing company, and they hired me to be a staff illustrator. And the book was called Rogue, and it was kind of a dystopian, futuristic, post-apocalyptic, gritty story. And that's where I got my drawing chops from. So,
Dutch, do you have a website where people can go check out your stuff?
Yeah, contoursfx.com.
That's awesome.
FX.com. Okay.
We're so excited that you're working with us. You know what I mean? I know Victoria and Jen go on and on about you, and I'm like, we got to get them on the show. So this is so cool that you're finally on with us. Excited to see the more work and how things are going to get going. And then, like you say, the surprise that you can't announce yet, which you kind of announced, but it'll soon be out. And let's keep moving forward. I'm loving it.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Dutch.
Well, thank you, Dutch. You, everybody, I'm Brian Olea.
I'm Victoria Fuller.
Jennifer Pershing.
And
The
Mayhem
Mayhem
continues.